Hey everyone, my name is Farouk Ansari. I am in ICS382. My project is smart home security. I'm going to be walking you guys through some smart home products, where they came about, a little bit of the history, some vulnerabilities that they have, and how to protect yourself from these vulnerabilities. Stay tuned because towards the end of the video, I will actually be demoing some of these products and how they work. I am an enthusiast of smart home, so I have quite a few of these products. So I'll show you a couple lights, voice commands, and thermostat, etc. So stay tuned for that towards the end of the slideshow here. Just as a disclaimer, this PowerPoint is only for informational purposes only. Do not use any of this information to secure your network, and I'm not liable for any damages or vulnerabilities that were exposed for you taking this advice. So only informational. Don't act on any of this. Thank you. So first, intro to smart home. Smart home is a group of products that are IoT devices used in a home. What is IoT, you might ask? It stands for Internet of Things. Internet of Things is basically, it was coined when more devices or things were online rather than people. So that means smartphones, TVs, tablets, and now the smart home products were online, connected to the internet more than the actual population of the world. So 2007, 2008 was the tipping point where we had more devices online than we actually had people. So, which is crazy when you think about it, that how many devices there are in the world that are connected. Typically, these devices help with convenience, facilitating, controlling, or automating different aspects of the home. So we'll get into what type of devices these are and how you can do that. A little bit more on the history of smart home. 20 years ago, if you remember seeing old movies or TV shows, a lot of it was, voice-activated homes that could cook for you, make dinner, clean the dishes, load the dishwasher, do your laundry, vacuum, pretty much anything that you needed. You just voice commanded it and it worked. That time is actually almost here. I mean, to the point it is. To some certain degree it is, not completely, but we're almost there. I would say the next 5 to 10 years we're going to be to the point where we may even have like robots that are in the home. I'm not talking like robots that you see in movies, but more basic robots that can do basic activities like carrying stuff or unloading or loading clothes from a dishwasher, washing machine, or loading the dishes into the dishwasher. 2005 to 2010 was a big year for IoT industry, mainly due to the launch of the iPhone and other Android phones that got people connected to the internet. There was a need to stay connected to social media, email, internet in general, and people had access to that readily on their phones. So then manufacturers started thinking, how do we get people connected to their homes, because that's one of the most important places for a person. So that's where IoT really got into smart home, because people were already connected to the internet. Now it was more, how do you get connected to the home and how do you control these devices in the home? And between 2010 and 2015, retail locations really started carrying door locks, thermostats, lights, and other smart home devices that people could check in on, make sure that they're okay in the home, and also be able to control if they need to let somebody in or lock the door if they forget to. Some of the main communication protocols that smart home devices or IoT devices use. From now on, I'm going to be referring IoT under the smart home umbrella. So if I say smart home, that doesn't necessarily mean only smart home. That's IoT in general. But the main common ones are Z-Wave, ZIGBEE, Thread, Insteon, Wi-Fi, and Clearstream. We'll get into details what devices use those. Z-Wave being the most popular one out of the bunch. That one's used mainly for locks, lights, pretty much anything home automation. So why would we use these protocols versus just using Wi-Fi or Bluetooth? The biggest problem with IoT devices or smart home devices is they're very small. Think of it like a sensor that's on a door. It's about your thumbnail size, and if it has a battery that will drain, within a couple days if it's using Wi-Fi. So these protocols are low powered, so they don't need much power. They can be put in small devices like sensors, and they're all mesh, which I'll get into mesh in a sec. They also have good range and don't require that much power for the range, so low frequencies can penetrate through walls easier. And the only problem with these is there's a delay in the signal being transmitted. If they're mesh, which we'll get into in a sec, the signal from the main controller to the actual device could take a while. But it's not a huge deal for most situations. A little bit on ZIGBEE. It's the second most popular among smart home devices. A couple of the devices that I'll show you today use ZIGBEE. It's based on the IEEE 802.15.4 standards. Physical range is only 10 to 20 meters, which is not a whole lot. However, it is mesh, so that range can get a lot longer if you add more devices in between. And ZIGBEE and Z-Wave, that I'll get to in a sec too, is only good for non-mobile devices, so can't be used on a phone. It's more for sensors and devices that are in a location, because once you're adding these devices, it kind of learns. It's kind of like a linked list where it knows where the signal is coming from, and it knows which device it has connection to, so you can relay the message. If you move those devices, the controller won't know where to send it, or your signal might not go through all the way through. So it's critical that these devices stay in place, stationary. It is a low power requirement, great for small devices like I mentioned. It operates between 902 and 928 megahertz, so less interference from Wi-Fi. Z-Wave is the one we'll be focusing mostly on today. It can support up to 232 devices, which is a lot, and a typical home won't reach that number of devices. 800 to 900 megahertz radio frequency, so it's not in the Wi-Fi range, the 2.4 or the 5 gigahertz, low interference. Physical range is a lot higher. It's up to 100 feet outdoors and upwards of 80 feet indoors. Low frequency, lower power requirements, like I mentioned earlier. It's the common choice for mesh networks for smart home. So this is kind of a brief. Mesh networking is super involved, but this is as brief or simple as you can keep it. So as you look on the right side, you have a controller, which is a remote control, but it could be a hub which has Wi-Fi connection. But this controller sends a signal to one of the devices, which is the garage. And the garage knows which devices it's linked to, which is the kitchen and the living room. So it relays the signal to them. They look at the signal and see that it's not meant for them, and it's meant for, let's say, the bedroom. So they will know that they're connected to the entryway and they're connected to the home office, so they will relay that signal. Entryway and home office will see that the signal is not meant for them, so they will then pass it on, and which will then reach the master bedroom and the bedroom too, and they will see that the code signal is for them, and whether it's to turn on or off, they'll change their state and then send a signal back, acknowledgement, all the way through back to the controller to know, so the controller can know that it's turned off. This is a very simple diagram. It gets much more involved, but as you can see, the controller doesn't need to have range from the controller itself to the bedroom. All it needs is these sensors in the middle, which will relay the signal. And it's critical that these don't move, because if the garage sensor were to move past the entry or living room, it's going to think that the kitchen and living room are its first point of contact, when really master bedroom or bedroom 2 will be right next to it. So order matters in these low powered mesh systems, Z-Wave or ZIGBEE. Categories in a smart home, these are pretty broad, but security cameras, thermostats, lights, door locks, garage door openers, sprinkler systems, more and more smart home security systems, monitored security systems like ADT, Nest, Ring, iSimplySafe Alarm are using Z-Wave or ZIGBEE to connect all their devices together. You also have like CO2 and smoke detectors that can send you an alert to your phone if a smoke detector goes off. Some security cameras, there's 3 different types. There's a whole bunch, but you can bucket them into 3 different types. There's wired systems like the Swan, there's Wi-Fi like Nest, and there's Arlo, which are completely wire free. They don't need any power. It's a hub-based solution. So wired would be like your Swan, which need a physical wire from the DVR box, which is on the bottom, to the actual cameras that's used for video and power. They are IP controlled or IP accessible, so they have internet ports on the back of the boxes, which you can view from your phone. Your wired / cloud recording cameras are going to be like your Canary or Nest, which need a power cord, but they're Wi-Fi, and they record to the cloud. They don't record anything local, so if somebody were to break in, take your camera, video stored on the cloud, you can access it later. Wi-Fi only, these are probably the weakest, most vulnerable cameras that you can get. You have like the Guardzilla or the D-Link, which connect directly to your Wi-Fi. A lot of these are accessible if you know the IP address. Anybody could type that into their browser, and they typically come with a preset access username and password. If they know what the default one is, you're going to be opening yourself up to anybody accessing that as long as they have that info, which is easy to get. And I'll show you a website too, which you can access to see cameras like this. Wire-free is the fourth, which is battery operated. You don't need any power. They can connect to a hub base, which receives a signal and relays it to the internet. Thermostats, you have popular brands are Nest, Ecobee, Honeywell, and other Z-Wave thermostats. The Z-Wave ones are more simple. They just have an on-off command. They might have a basic controls, but nothing too spectacular. A couple pictures of those. Lights, the biggest companies in the smart home business are Philips Hue, Lutron, LifeX, and TP-Link. Philips Hue uses a hub-based solution. I'll show you the hub in a sec. But Lutron is more for commercial grade. A lot of big buildings that are 15 stories or more that use Lutron because it uses a very low noise frequency signal, and it only transmits when it needs to. It doesn't always transmit. So if you have 5 people turning lights on or off at the same time, it's not going to interfere because it only sends a pulse signal when the button is pressed. LifeX is Wi-Fi only, doesn't need any hub. That's more for like dorm rooms or somebody that doesn't have Ethernet access. And TP-Links is just getting into the smart bulb business, but they're also Wi-Fi bulbs. As you can see towards the bottom of the chart here, you have Philips Hue, LifeX, TP-Link, and Lutron. A lot of these have cloud compatibility, meaning that they will work with voice assistants like Alexa. HomeKit is Siri. Another one that's great is IFTTT. If you guys haven't looked into that, I highly encourage everybody to check that out. It's a super powerful cloud-to-cloud automation system, which you don't even need any product. You can set it up with your social media, your email accounts, weather channel. You can do all kinds of sorts of cool stuff with that. So a lot of these lights are compatible with them. So you could say like, Alexa, turn off my room light, and as you'll see,
okay,
it'll turn off my room light. Alexa, turn on my room light. I have the Philips Hue here, and that's compatible with Alexa. So as you can see, the Philips Hue comes with bulbs and a hub that connects, or the Lutron too. They both come with a hub that connects to the internet. The hub looks like it's just a cube like this, covering the hardware MAC ID as best as I can here. It's got an Ethernet access port and a power for power, and that's pretty much all there is to it. And the bulbs will communicate with that hub. Wi-Fi only, these don't need anything. As long as you have a Wi-Fi connection, you're good to go. Some door locks and garage openers. Popular brands are Kwikset, Sledge, Kivo, Yale, and August. They mostly all use Z-Wave or ZIGBEE. Similar concept, you can access it on your phone, or if you have a hub like this. This is I'm gonna try to cover the MAC address and all that stuff here. This is a SmartThings hub, which has a connection for Ethernet, a couple USB ports, and a power plug. But this basically will connect all Z-Wave and ZIGBEE devices, and you can see on the back, I don't know if you guys can see that, it's got the ZIGBEE and Z-Wave certification on there. which allows it to communicate with any Z-Wave or ZigBee devices in the home, like the locks.